So variables are primarily used for storing information inside a computer program. And we store that inside a variable so that at a later point in time, we can go ahead and use that particular value. Let me take an example. We've all used a contact form. We've all filled out a contact form. With respect to a contact form, the kind of values that we are going to be using is going to be the name, the email, and the message. If you're taking an example of an e-commerce store, let me just zoom out a little. Yeah, much better. So if you take an example of an e-commerce store, the type of data or the information that we are storing in our program to be used at a later point in time is information like the customer, the product information, the review information, and the order information. If you're taking an example of a video app, it could be something like YouTube or Netflix. The type of information that we are storing or the type of data that we are storing is the information of the video, about the video, the information about the user, as well as the comments. Yeah, cool. Now, how do we create variables in JavaScript? We can primarily create variables in 3 ways as of today. You can use the keyword var to do so. That is how it has been traditionally done. It's an ES5 feature. It's an ES5 keyword. We can also declare a variable using the let and the const keyword. Now, both of these happen to be a new feature from ES6. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and create a new folder inside the JavaScript folder that we had previously created. So what I'll do is inside the, let me just close these 2 files first. Okay. Now inside the JavaScript folder, this is an icon for creating a new file. I want to create a new folder instead. So I'll create a new folder. I'm going to call this as variables. I'm creating a new folder called as variables. And then from my terminal, I'm going to go inside the variables folder. And now that I've created a folder, I'm going to create a file inside the folder. I'm going to call this as variable.js. Now, while you're working with variables, there are certain terms that you need to be aware of. One is called as variable declaration, variable assignment. So what do you mean by variable declaration? Making a variable present in your program is called as declaring a variable. And to do so, when you're using the var keyword, you do it this way. You'll say var first name. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and created a variable called as first name. So when I create a variable or when I declare a variable, a part of memory in your computer is now made available where I can store some information inside it. At this point of time, we have just gone ahead and declared a variable. And whenever we declare a variable and then we do not assign any kind of a value to it, by default, the value of this variable is going to be undefined. I'll go to the next line. I want to see the value of the variable first name. So for that, I'll use the console.log method to print it on my screen. Here, it's going to be our terminal. In the console.log method, I'm going to be referring to the variable that I've declared called as the first name. I've saved the file. I'll come back to my terminal. And now I'll run this particular file. I'll say node variable.js. You can see that it prints undefined. Now you could use a semicolon after every line of code that you write or after completion of a statement. You can use a semicolon after a line or completion of a statement, or you can opt not using your semicolon. It's completely optional. Generally what happens is you declare a variable, and in case you do not know the value that it should contain, or if you do not know what is the input given by the user for that. You can just declare it and leave it like that. You will always be able to come back and assign a value at a later point in time. I can now assign a value to my variable. For that, I have to refer to my variable first name, and then I'll use an equal sign. It's called as an assignment operator. If you want to assign any kind of a value to a variable, you'll use the equal sign, and then you will assign some kind of a value, and the value I'll say is my first name. I'll say Ani in short. So what's going to happen is this particular value Ani is stored inside a variable called as the first name. So what have I done here? I've gone ahead and done an assignment operation, which is this. I can now come back and ask for the value of my variable first name. I'll save the file, come back and run the code. You can see that the value of my variable first name is going to be Ani. But one thing if you observe here, when I assigned the value to my variable, I did Ani in single quote. That is indicating this is going to be of type string. But whenever you're displaying a string value, either on your command prompt or on a web page, the single quote or the double quote that you would have used to create a string will never get printed. Now, it is not that I have to first declare a variable, then come back and assign a value to it. I can actually go ahead and combine both into one statement. That means to say I can declare and assign together. Let me create a new variable. I'll create a variable called a city and I'll assign the value Bangalore to it. So I've combined both the steps. I've combined the declaration as well as the assignment in one step. I will print that value. You'll see Bangalore. So these are some of the terms: declaring a variable, assigning a variable, declare and assigning a value to a variable. The other term while you're working with variables that you will, or when you're basically writing code, you'll come across is reassign. That means to say you've already created a variable. It has some kind of a value in it. You want to change the value of it. You'll now say city is equal to Mysore. So what we've done is we've gone ahead and we have reassigned a value to our variable. Assignment is the variable did not have any value apart from undefined. You just gave it some kind of a value. That is assignment. Reassignment is it already had a value and you're changing the value that it has. You're reassigning the value to it. You have the value of city to be Mysore. Then there is another term called as redeclare. Redeclaring a variable. What do you mean by redeclaring? You are creating the variable with the same name once again. If you see line number 14, I did not use the variable keyword var. I did not use the keyword var. Because here I was just assigning a value to it. When you say that you are going to be redeclaring a variable, something that was created, you are recreating it one more time with an updated value. You are supposed to be using the var keyword to do so. I can now say var city is equal to, I can say Mumbai. So what we have done here, we've gone ahead and we have redeclared a variable. Yeah, cool. So while you're working with programming, these are some of the terms that you're going to be using a lot. And this also becomes the base of understanding the true difference between var, let, and const. Working with let and const is going to be in the next lecture. One is declaration, one is assignment, declaration and assignment, reassignment, and redeclaration. I'll see you in the next lecture.